Okay, we are all set and ready to proceed. Do you all have everyone lined up and ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I think we have 3 females we're going to do first, Your Honor.
Okay, well, I need to see everyone so I can give my announcements.
Yes, Your Honor.
Y'all stand up. Put your mask.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Judge Farrey. I will be presiding over your first appearance hearing today. I want you to listen carefully because I am going to explain a few things that's going to apply to all of you, if not majority of you. This is your first appearance in front of Clayton County Magistrate Court. Keep in mind that we are not here to try your case. This is not a trial today. We are not here to take a plea in your case. You are here so that way I can inform you of the charges that have been brought against you and advise you of certain rights that you have, and to set bond on those offenses for which this court is authorized to set bond on, to schedule a preliminary hearing in your case if necessary, and to determine whether you require the assistance of an attorney. Some of the rights that you will have is you will have the right to remain silent and say nothing today. But should you give up this right, anything that you say during this proceeding may be used against you if this case goes to trial. We are streaming live on YouTube, so that way the public has access to the courtroom. So keep that in mind as you make any statements before this court. During this and all of the proceedings, you also have the following rights. You have the right to the presumption of innocence until the state proves your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You have the right to indictment by the grand jury for most felonies or by accusation for misdemeanors. You have the right to a speedy and public trial by jury. You have the right to see, hear, and cross-examine witnesses who are called to testify against you. You have the right to compel the attendance of witnesses in your case on your own behalf by subpoena. You have the right to testify and offer other evidence in your defense should you choose to do so. However, if you choose not to do so, there will be no presumption of guilt that will be raised against you. You will also have the right to have an attorney represent you as well. Now, I want to talk to you all about the different bonds that we will discuss here today. Some of you will be allowed to post what is called an unrestricted bond for your release from jail pending the prosecution of your case today. Now, this bond may be posted in 3 different forms. The first one is called a cash bond. If you decide to post a cash bond, you will pay the full amount of your bond in cash to the sheriff's office, plus any of the applicable mandated fees that are required. Now, the sheriff will hold your cash bond, and after the final disposition of your case, the cash bond will be returned to the person who posted it. That's the first option. The second option will probably be the option that many of you will use. This option is called a commercial bond. If you decide to go with this option of a commercial bond, you can post the bond by using a commercial bonding company that is approved by the Clayton County Sheriff's Office. These are private bonding companies who charge different fees to post the bond for you. The bonding companies usually charge up to 15% of the total amount of your bond as their fee for their services. Once you pay this fee to the bonding company, you do not get this money back. Now, the third option is you can use what is called a property bond. If you decide to use a property bond, then you will need to find someone who has property with net equity in their property for at least 3 times the total amount of the bond. For example, if I tell you that your bond is $2,000 and you want to use a property bond, then that property has to have equity in it of at least $6,000. Now, some of you will have what is called special conditions that will be applied to your bond. Now, this special condition will prohibit you from going to certain places and contacting certain people. If you are given a special condition and I tell you that you cannot have contact with a certain individual, that means any direct contact, no contact by telephone, email, in person, nowadays, even social media. Don't even contact that person through social media. And there cannot be any indirect contact, meaning that you cannot use another individual to contact that person. If I tell you to stay away from a particular place or location, that means you cannot go on that property. If you violate the court's order, your bond will be revoked and you will not be entitled to receive another bond while you're waiting for trial. Additionally, you may have additional charges brought against you for aggravated stalking, influencing a witness, or any other charge as the law may provide. And if these charges are brought against you, then you may be sentenced up to 10 years in prison and fined up to $20,000. For family members who will assist you in posting your bond, they will be provided information about your bond amount after we have concluded the first appearance calendar here today. Now, if a family member is considered to be a victim on the warrant and there is a special condition that you are to have no contact with that family member, then that particular family member will not be able to post the bond for you. Now, some of you are charged with offenses for which this court is not authorized by law to set a bond for you. I will inform you of that if that is the situation. In this case, there will be a bond hearing that's going to be scheduled in front of a Superior Court judge, and I will inform you of that court date. Now, some of you may be on active probation, and this court, depending on the circumstances and what you're charged with, this court may not be authorized to set a bond for you. We will give your probation officer an opportunity to decide whether he or she will file a warrant to revoke your probation. And this is typically done during your preliminary hearing. Now, I will be giving each of you what is called a preliminary hearing court date. A preliminary hearing is called a probable cause hearing. Now, the purpose of a preliminary hearing is for a judge to determine whether or not there is enough evidence or probable cause to justify keeping you detained on your charges until such time that you go to trial. If you end up bonding out here today, your preliminary hearing date is automatically waived, meaning that you will no longer need that preliminary hearing date and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. If for some reason you have not bonded out or your bond has been denied, you will still have your preliminary hearing date and you will be brought up before the court to have your preliminary hearing to determine whether or not there's enough evidence to keep you detained on your charges. For those of you that are charged with only misdemeanors, your preliminary hearing date will be May 4th at 8:30 a.m. For those of you who are charged with both misdemeanors and felonies or just felonies, your preliminary hearing date will be May 3rd. For those of you who are denied a bond today, you're also going to get an additional court date. That court date is going to be your bond hearing date. And that bond hearing date will be May 7th. Okay. So I would like for each of you to go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the statements you give before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do and lower your hands.
I do.
Okay. All right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and start with the ladies first. And if I can have the first female inmate come forward and please clearly state your first and last name.
Sharon Miller.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Miller.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
You have been charged with tampering with evidence. Your bond amount is $1,500. Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you understand the charge?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Okay. Your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 4th. If you do bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Did you want to be considered for a court-appointed attorney here today?
What are the fees for that, ma'am?
I'm sorry.
What are the fees for that, ma'am?
No, it will be no charge to you.
Okay.
All right, so I am reviewing your application and you do qualify for a court-appointed attorney. So I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions, Ms. Miller?
No, ma'am.
All right, well, you may be excused. Have a good day.
You too.
Wanda Usher.
Good afternoon, Ms. Usher.
Good afternoon.
You have been charged with one count of simple assault and your bond amount is $2,000. Do you understand the charge and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 4th. If you do make bond, that court date will be canceled and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you do qualify. So I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Shoshana Moore Crook.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Moore Crook.
Good afternoon.
You have been charged with one count of theft by conversion. It is being charged as a felony. That bond is $5,000. Do you understand the charge? Bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you can make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you do qualify, so I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Because you are charged with a felony, your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for May 3rd. Do you
Okay.
have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Your Honor.
Okay, great. Thank you, Deputy. All right, Deputy Irvin, I'll go ahead and take the first male inmate.
Yes, y'all.
May I have your name, sir?
Austin.
Okay, Mr. Austin, good afternoon. You have been charged with one count of criminal trespass. Your bond is set at $2,000. Do you understand your charge and your bond amount?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You do have a special condition to this bond. You are not to return to the location of 6930 Diamond Drive in Rex, Georgia. Is that a residence where you live?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I am going to authorize you to go back to the residence. You will have to make an appointment with the sheriff's department to go and collect any of your personal belongings. So that way you'll have something with you while your case is pending. If there are any items that you dispute, you're gonna have to leave it there. But you're only to go back within 10 days of being released just to collect some of your personal belongings. And you cannot return until such time that this case has been resolved or until this bond condition has been modified by another judge. Do you understand that condition, sir? Okay. This is a misdemeanor charge, so your preliminary hearing date is May 4th, but as I mentioned, if you bond out, that court date will be canceled and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. So just make sure that you update the court with your forwarding address since you are not to return to the Diamond Drive residence. Now, are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney, or do you plan to hire your own lawyer to represent you?
Court attorney.
Okay. All right, so you do qualify, Mr. Austin. I am going to go ahead and appoint an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions of me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, you may be excused. Have a good day. May I have your name, sir?
William David.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Bailey. You have been charged with 3 driving offenses. One is driving on a suspended license. That bond amount is $1,500. There's a driving across a divided highway charge. That bond amount is $500, and improper lane change. That bond amount is $500. So your total bond is $2,500. Do you understand the charge and the bond amount?
Yes.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bonds, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Do you plan to hire your own attorney, or do you want to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
I don't know if it's even worth hiring an attorney. Do I have the option to get a court appointed? I mean, I make the money to hire one, but I don't know if it's even worth it because I'm.
Yeah, and just like you mentioned, I'm looking at your application that you filled out, and you actually do make more than the threshold amount to qualify for a court-appointed attorney. So you will have to hire your own attorney, okay? Okay, so your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 4th, but as I mentioned, if you bond out, that court date will be canceled and you'll receive a new court date in the mail.
Okay, so it's $2,500.
Yes, $2,500 total, okay? You have any other questions, Mr. Bailey? All right, have a good day. Good afternoon, what's your name, sir? Okay, so Mr. Bynum, you have been charged with 3 offenses. A felony offense of violating the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. That bond amount is $5,000, as well as a felony possession of a firearm during a crime. That bond amount is $10,000, and then use of possession of a drug-related object. That bond amount is $500. So your total bond with all 3 charges is $15,500. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount? Do you believe you'll be able to make bonds, sir? Okay, are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney? Or do you plan to hire your own attorney? You plan to hire your own attorney, sir? Okay, are you working? Okay, so what I'm gonna do, because I do see your application here for a court-appointed attorney, I'm just gonna go ahead and appoint one for you just in case. How old are you, sir? Are you 18? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and appoint an attorney to represent you, Mr. Bynum, and then if you decide to hire your own attorney, you can certainly do so. You'll just have to notify the court-appointed attorney that you're gonna hire your own attorney, okay? Your preliminary hearing date is going to be scheduled for May 3rd. But if you bond out, that hearing date will be canceled and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Do you have any questions for me? Okay, well, you may be excused. Have a good day. May I have your name?
Hey, hold on.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Dorsey. All right, Mr. Dorsey, you have several driving related offenses that you've been charged with. You've been charged with a stop sign violation. That bond amount is $500. Driving while license suspended. That bond amount is $1,500. Obstruction of an officer. That bond amount is $1,500. Improper passing. That bond amount is $500. You have a speeding violation. That bond amount is $1,000. Reckless driving, that bond amount is $3,000. And fleeing from a police officer, that bond amount is $2,000. So the total bond between all of your charges is $10,000. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount? Do you believe you'll be able to make bonds, sir? Okay. Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at your application and you did not indicate any information about your employment. Are you currently employed? Okay. Do you have any source of income, sir? How do you financially support yourself?
Temporary job. And
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and appoint an attorney to represent you. Your preliminary hearing date, all of your charges are misdemeanors. So your preliminary hearing date will be scheduled for May 4th, but if you bond out, that date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. Do you have any questions, sir? Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Philip Drake.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Drake.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Drake, you've been charged with one count of DUI refusal. That bond amount is $2,500. You have an open container violation charge. That bond amount is $500. And you have an obstruction of an officer charge. That bond amount is $1,000. So the total bond is $4,000. Do you understand the charge and the bond amount? Okay, do you believe you'll be able to make bond? Are you requesting a court-appointed attorney?
Yes.
Okay, you do qualify. So I am granting your request and I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Your hearing date for the preliminary hearing is going to be May 4th. You are charged with all misdemeanors. So if you end up bonding out though, that May 4th court date will go away and you'll receive a new notice in the mail with your new court date. You have any questions, Mr. Drake? Do you have any questions, sir?
No.
Okay, thank you. You may be excused.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Justin Edwards.
Good afternoon, Mr. Edwards. You have been charged with one count of disorderly conduct. That bond amount is $1,500, and one count of simple assault. That bond amount is $3,000. So the total bond is $4,500. Do you understand the charge and the bond amount?
Yes.
Do you believe you can make bond?
Yes.
Do you plan to hire your own attorney, or do you want to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Quick question. If I was to consider court-appointed attorney, can I still bond out today?
Oh, yes, it doesn't affect your ability to bond out, sir.
Yes, a court-appointed attorney.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and approve your application for a court-appointed attorney. Your hearing date for your preliminary hearing is May 4th, but once you bond out, it will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Do you have any questions for me?
No, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Derek Franklin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Franklin. You have two charges. One charge is obstruction of an officer. It's the $1,000 bond. The second charge is disorderly conduct. That bond amount is $1,500. So your total bond is $2,500. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount?
Yes.
Do you believe you can make bond?
Yes.
Would you like to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes.
Okay, so you do qualify. I am going to grant your request and appoint an attorney to represent you. Because you're charged with all misdemeanors, your hearing date is going to be scheduled for May 4th. But if you bond out, this preliminary hearing will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
No.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Antonio Greer. Keep the mask on.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, what was your name?
Antonio Greer.
Okay, Mr. Greer, you've been charged with several offenses. The first offense is evading fare at a public transportation. Looks like it's a failure to pay at the MARTA transit station. That bond amount is $500. You've also been charged with obstructing or hindering law enforcement. That bond amount is $1,000. You have a possession charge. That bond amount is $5,000. You also have a possession charge with intent to distribute. That bond amount is $10,000. You also have another possession charge. That bond amount is $5,000. Then you have a third violation of Georgia Controlled Substances Act charge. That bond amount is $5,000. And you have a criminal trespass charge. That bond amount is $1,500. So between all the charges, your total bond amount is $28,000. Do you understand those charges and the bond amount? I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you believe you can make bond, Mr. Greer?
Ma'am.
You said no?
Ma'am.
Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Based on your application, you're stating that you don't have any source of income right now. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and appoint an attorney to represent you. I have scheduled your preliminary hearing date for May 3rd. So if you are not able to bond out, then on May 3rd, you will be brought up before the court to determine whether or not there's enough probable cause to keep you detained. Okay, do you have any questions for me, sir?
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
James Hunt, bro.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
James Hunt.
Okay, Mr. Hunt, so you have been charged with 3 offenses. One is driving on a suspended license. That bond amount is $1,500, as well as use or possession of a drug-related object. That bond amount is $500, and given a false name, that bond amount is $1,500. So I am setting bond on all of these offenses because they are misdemeanor charges, and your total bond amount is $3,500. Do you understand the bond and the charges?
I was booked on 27 charges.
Okay, well, all I have before me
Yeah.
are 3 charges.
Okay.
So if there are additional charges, I don't know if you'll be brought back before me again tomorrow, but that's the only thing I have in front of me right now.
Okay.
Okay, do you understand those 3 charges that I've mentioned to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I do see that you, looks like you are on active probation out of Franklin County for 12 months. So I don't know if there's going to be a probation hold on you, but I do want to make you aware of that. Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
So is it accurate that you don't have any source of income right now? Okay. So I'm going to appoint an attorney to represent you, Mr. Hunt, and your preliminary hearing date is going to be scheduled for May 4th. So in the event that you are not able to bond out for whatever reason, you will be brought up on May 4th for the court to determine whether or not there's enough probable cause to continue to detain you. Do you have any questions for me?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you. Well, you can have a good day, please.
Mhm.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
I have a deputy law trying to log in. We have some other inmates in another location that needs to log in as well. His name is Deputy Law.
What's that? What's that here?
Oh, I see. Okay. May I have your name, sir?
His name is
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Jamari Johnson.
You said Jamari Johnson?
Yeah, Jamari.
Okay, so Mr. Johnson, you were charged and arrested on 1 count of battery. And I have dismissed that charge on a technicality. The issue with this is that there was no victim actually listed in the officer's warrantless arrest affidavit. So we cannot hold you on that charge, but I will say, this doesn't mean that the officer can't come back and take out another warrant with regards to this offense, okay? But based on what's before me here today, I'm gonna have to dismiss this charge. So you'll be free to go. All right, have a good day, sir.
Yes, Mama. Thank you. Oh, it's awesome.
May I have your name? You said Laquan Jeffers?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Jeffers. Is Jeffers your last name?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jeffers. Same thing that I just mentioned to the gentleman before you. You were charged and arrested on one count of battery. And unfortunately, based on the warrantless arrest affidavit, it is insufficient for probable cause. So I'm gonna have to dismiss it because there is no victim's name listed on this affidavit. And so, like I mentioned to the last gentleman though, this does not mean that there can't be a future charge brought against you. Okay, it's just that based on the affidavit that's in front of me, it's insufficient for me to find that there's probable cause to move forward on this battery charge. So I'll just say, whatever happened that caused you to appear here before me, just make sure that you are not placed in that situation again. Okay, so other than that, once I sign the dismissal order, you will be released and you're free to go. Do you have any questions, Mr. Jeffers?
No.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. May I have your name? Okay, Mr. Massey, you have been charged with 3 counts, 1 count of aggravated assault, 1 count of possession of a knife during a crime, and 1 count of a fray. I am denying bond on the aggravated assault charge. You do have a bond on the other 2 charges. It's $10,000 for the possession of the knife during a crime, and then there's a $1,000 bond on the affray charge. Do you understand the charges and what I've mentioned about bond, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to give you 2 court dates. The first one is going to be your preliminary hearing date. That preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 3rd. All right, so you'll be brought up on May 3rd to determine whether or not there's enough probable cause to keep you detained on your charges. The second date is going to be a bond hearing date, and that date is scheduled for May 7th. And then at that time, you can have the issue of bond reconsidered. Are you requesting to have a court-appointed attorney, sir?
Yes.
All right, I'm looking at your application. You did indicate that you do have a job. You said the amount, I'm sorry?
I want no more.
Okay. So you don't anticipate that you'll be working after today? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and appoint an attorney to represent you. And so your attorney will be reaching out prior to your court dates. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Massey?
No.
Okay, well, you may be excused. Have a good day. Good afternoon, sir. May I have your name? Speak up loud for me, sir. I can't hear you.
My name is Jay Shamagi.
Okay, Mr. McGee, you have been charged with 3 offenses. One offense is violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act for marijuana. That bond amount is $5,000. A possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. That bond amount is $10,000. And use or possession of a drug-related object. That bond amount is $500. So your total bond is $15,500. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney, or do you want to hire your own attorney?
Court-appointed attorney.
All right, you do qualify, so I am appointing an attorney to represent you. Because your charges do include a felony or 2 felonies, your preliminary hearing date is going to be scheduled for May 3rd. But if you do bond out, that hearing date will be waived and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Johnny Mims.
What was your name?
Johnny Mims.
Okay, Mr. Mims, so you've been charged with several offenses. One charge is violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. Your bond for that is $5,000. Also, possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime. That bond amount is $5,000. You have 2 improper lane change charges. Those are $500 apiece. And then you have a possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That bond is $1,500. And there was also a charge of trafficking methamphetamine. However, based on the warrantless affidavit that was provided by the officer, I did not find that there was sufficient probable cause to maintain that charge. So I am denying the trafficking charge. However, on the other charges, your total bond amount is $12,500. Do you understand the charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, ma'am, but I'm also considering my own attorney, just to put that in the air now. But I would like to be.
Okay, well, let me take a look at your application. You've stated that your monthly income is $1,800.
Yeah, on and off, yes.
Okay, I will appoint an attorney to represent you. If you do get a private attorney, just let the court-appointed attorney know. And your preliminary hearing date is going to be scheduled for May 3rd. If you do bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court date in the mail. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
No, I think I'll hold on my questions. Thank you so much, Your Honor.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
Your Honor, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it. I have 2 traffic charges. I was only aware of 1, and that was improper lane changing.
Yeah, let me look, hang on. Yes, there are, it's improper lane change, but you would charge with that twice. So that is the only traffic charge, but there were 2 charges of that. And so it's $500 a piece. So the total for those 2 charges is $1,000. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am, that's definitely good enough. 12,500.
That's correct.
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Good afternoon. Name is Juan Nguyen.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, what was your name?
Juan Nguyen. Juan Nguyen.
Last name Wynn?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Wynn, so you've been charged with 2 offenses. 1 count of simple battery, family violence. That bond is $5,000. And you also have a simple assault charge. That bond is $2,000. So your total bond amount is $7,000. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount?
Yes.
Do you believe you can make bond?
Yes.
All right, you do have special conditions to your bond.
Yes.
You are to stay away and have no contact with my Wynn.
Yes.
And you also cannot return to 6090 Ledgewood Drive in Forest Park, Georgia. That was indicated on the affidavit that it's a shared residence. Is that where you live?
Yes.
Okay, so I am going to give you the opportunity to go back to collect some of your personal belongings. You will have to make an appointment with the sheriffs of Clayton County to go back to the property and retrieve any undisputed property. So if there is something that you and Ms. Wynn are in dispute about, you're going to have to leave it there and only take your personal property.
Yeah.
And besides that, you are to not return there and have any contact with her until such time that this case has been resolved or these conditions have been modified by another judge. Do you understand those special conditions? Do you plan to hire your own attorney or are you requesting a court-appointed attorney?
Well, I was doing both because like actually we just have a newborn baby, so right now I didn't go to work until like another 2 weeks. So.
All right, so I'm showing, I want to make sure I can read your handwriting. Is it $2,400 a month?
Yep, 2,400 and plus that addition, 500. So that's like 29.
Okay.
500.
I'm going to appoint an attorney to represent you. So you will hear from your court-appointed attorney. Your court date, you're charged with all misdemeanors. So your court date is scheduled for May 4th. That's your preliminary hearing date. But if you bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. Because you can't return to your residence, just make sure you update your address with the court.
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions, Mr. Wynn?
No.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
May I have your name?
Malcolm Parks.
So Mr. Parks, you have been charged with use or possession of a drug-related object. You also have 2 charges of violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. You have a trafficking cocaine charge and a trafficking, looks like methamphetamine, either morphine or methamphetamine charge. So I am denying bond at this time. The only bond amount you do have is the $500 bond on the possession of drug-related objects. But I am denying bond based on the facts that are before me, and I'm not authorized to set bond on some of these charges. Do you understand the charges?
Yes, ma'am.
I am giving you a bond hearing date. That date is scheduled for May 7th. So you will have the opportunity to have bond reconsidered at that time. Also, you will have a felony preliminary hearing date scheduled for May 3rd. So you will be brought up before the court and you'll have an opportunity to hear whether or not there's enough evidence here to find that there's probable cause to maintain these charges. Are you asking to be considered for a court-appointed attorney, or do you plan to hire your own attorney?
Court-appointed attorney.
All right, so you do qualify. I am granting your request, and I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Parks? Okay, you are excused. Have a good day. May I have your name?
Randall Ram.
She messed up on the
Good afternoon, Mr. Ram. You have 2 driving offenses. Improper backing, that's $500 is your bond amount, and driving on a suspended license, $1,500 is your bond amount for that one. So your total bond amount is $2,000. Do you understand the charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe you can make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you plan to hire your own attorney, or do you want to be considered for a court-appointed attorney?
Report.
Okay, you do qualify, so I am granting your request, and I have appointed an attorney to represent you. Your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 4th. If you bond out, that date will be waived, and you'll receive a new notice in the mail. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
So you read.
Good afternoon, Mr. Reed. You've been charged with 1 count of theft by receiving stolen property. I've set that bond at $5,000, as well as a improper display of tag charge. That bond amount is $500. So your total bond is $5,500. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount?
When I was first pulled in, is that charge the same thing as obstruction of a license plate? So that's what they told me my charge was.
Yes, it's a failure to display the license plate. That is correct. Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you requesting a court-appointed attorney?
If yeah.
No, that's not. That's it.
Is your gross monthly income $3,100 a month? Okay. I will appoint an attorney to represent you based on your application. Your preliminary hearing date is being scheduled for May 3rd. The theft by receiving is being charged as a felony. So May 3rd is your preliminary hearing date, but if you bond out, that court date will be waived. Have any questions, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you may be excused. Have a good day.
Good afternoon, John. I'm Tony Tatum.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tatum. Okay, you've been charged with several driving offenses. They're all misdemeanors. You have a DUI less safe charge. That bond is $2,000. You have an improper lane change. That bond is $500. You have a fleeing from the police officer. That bond is $2,000. And you also have a failure to yield, or excuse me, failure to stop at a stop sign. That bond is $500. So your total bond amount is $5,000. Do you understand the charges and your total bond amount? Do you believe you'll be able to make bond? Do you plan to hire your own attorney, or are you requesting a court-appointed attorney?
Court-appointed attorney.
All right, I am approving your application for a court-appointed attorney. So I have appointed one to represent you. Your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 4th. It will be waived in the event that you do bond out. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Tatum?
No.
All right, have a good day.
My name is Bakari Toure.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Bakari Toure.
Last name Toure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mr. Toure. So you have been charged with one count of expired tag. That bond is $500. You also have looks like you have a charge of concealing a vehicle identity. That bond is $1,000. You have a violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act charge. That's a felony. That charge is the bond amount is $5,000. And you also have a possession of firearm during the commission of a crime. And that bond amount is $5,000. So your total bond amount between all of your charges is $11,500. Do you understand the charges and the bond amount?
Yeah, I understand.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond? I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Are you requesting a court-appointed attorney?
Can you break it for me? What you mean?
Are you requesting the court to appoint an attorney to represent you at no cost, or do you plan to hire your own attorney?
Like right now, if I have him right now, so later on I got a lawyer, I want to put on my lawyer there, so I can do that too.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking at your application, and you do qualify for a court-appointed attorney. So I am going to appoint an attorney to represent you. And as you mentioned, if you decide to hire your own attorney, you can do that just as well. Just let the court-appointed attorney know. Your preliminary hearing date, you do have 2 felony charges. So your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 3rd. But if you do bond out, then that court date will be waived. But if you're still detained, you will be brought up on May 3rd for your preliminary hearing. Okay, do you have any questions for me, Mr. Toure?
What are the 2 felonies?
It is the possession charge. That's the violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act, and the possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime.
So the firearm, what about when it's yours? Like it's mine.
I'm sorry, what about what?
When it's your own gun, like it's your own.
I'm not understanding what you're saying. I'm
I
sorry.
mean, like if the gun is yours, it's not a stolen gun, like it's a clean gun, you buy it.
The allegation is while you were committing the other crimes that I mentioned is that you were in possession of a firearm. So it's still a felony charge. All right. So that's what you're being charged with. Now, if you have any other questions and you need further explanation, the court-appointed attorney that I just assigned to you will be able to further explain your charges, and we'll talk to you further about your case so that way you understand. Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Toure?
No, that's all. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Have a good day.
How you doing, man? I'm Darius Smith.
Good afternoon. What was the last name?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Smith, you've been charged with 3 offenses. One is loitering or prowling. That bond is $1,000. You also have a illegal dumping charge. That bond amount is $500. And you had a third charge of driving while suspended license. But I have denied that charge. I do find that it lacks sufficient probable cause. So you'll only have the 2 charges that I mentioned earlier, the loitering or prowling and the illegal dumping. So your total bond amount is $1,500. Do you understand the charges and your bond amount? Do you believe you can make bond? Are you requesting a court-appointed attorney? I'm sorry?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you complete an application for a court-appointed attorney?
Yes, ma'am. It was been turned in last.
It was turned in last?
Yes, ma'am, through a different officer.
Okay.
Yeah, it was turned in later on, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah, filled it out at the end and we had it shipped back up there.
Okay. So give me one moment. Let me take a look. Let me see if I can quickly put my hands on it.
That's
Okay, I see it here. I see it, Mr. Smith. Let me go ahead and print this out.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so I am going to appoint an attorney to represent you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
So that attorney will be in contact. Your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 4th. But if you do bond out, that court date will be waived. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you're free to go. Have a good day.
Good morning. Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Rodney Wilson.
Okay, so Mr. Wilson, you have several offenses. You have four offenses regarding the violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act related to Xanax, cocaine, ecstasy, and marijuana. Each of those offenses has a $5,000 bond on each of them. There's also a charge of possession of firearm by a convicted felon. That bond is $10,000. You also have a possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. That bond amount is $10,000 as well. And then you have an improper display of tag. That's a misdemeanor, and that bond is $500. So between all of your charges, the total bond amount you have is $40,500. Do you understand those charges and the bond amount?
Yes, ma'am, I guess.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
I don't know.
Are you requesting to be considered for a court-appointed attorney? I am appointing an attorney to represent you, Mr. Wilson. So your court-appointed attorney will be in contact. Now, I am scheduling you to have a preliminary hearing date for May 3rd. So in the event you are not able to bond out before then, you will be brought back before the court on May 3rd to determine whether there is sufficient probable cause to continue to detain you. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused, Mr. Wilson.
Hey, excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
I have 2 left at my location.
Okay.
I have the one that needs the translator, and I have Mr. Mawson as well.
What was the other one? Mushin?
Mawson, yes, ma'am.
Okay, we can do Mr. Mushin.
And then we also have a couple others at a different location. This is the ones I have down here.
Okay, that's no problem. We'll do Mr. Mushin, and then we'll do the other 2 that's at the other location, and we'll still do the interpreter case last.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Mushin. You have been charged with 3 offenses. You have an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge. I am denying bond on that charge today. You also have a charge of pointing a pistol or a gun at another. There is a bond set for that at $5,000. And you also have a reckless conduct charge. That bond is set at $5,000 as well. However, like I mentioned, because there is a no bond on the aggravated assault charge, you will not be able to bond out. I am scheduling your preliminary hearing date for May 3rd. So you will be brought up on May 3rd to determine whether or not there is enough probable cause to continue to detain you. And also, I am giving you a bond hearing date. That bond hearing date is being scheduled for May 7th. So during that time, you'll have the opportunity to have the issue of bond reconsidered. Do you understand the issue with regards to your bond as well as the charges?
I understand.
Are you requesting a court-appointed attorney?
No, I'm my lawyer.
You're gonna hire your own attorney?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any questions for me, Mr. Mushin?
Okay.
All right, you may be excused. Have a good day, sir.
Judge, I have the inmates from the infirmary, if you want to do those ones.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll go ahead and take the first one. Can you state your name, sir? Okay, sir, you've been charged with 3 felonies. Your first charge is murder. Your second charge is violation of the Georgia Controlled Substances Act. And your third charge is possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. You do not have a bond at this time. I have scheduled a bond hearing date for May 7th. And I have also scheduled a preliminary hearing date for May 3rd. Do you understand the charges?
Yes,
Are you requesting a court-appointed attorney?
Either I have an attorney, I'm not very sure if I have to pay more money to him, but I did put a down payment for a lawyer.
All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and you did complete an application to be considered for one. I'm gonna go ahead and approve your application. So I have appointed an attorney to represent you. If your private attorney decides to represent you, he or she can just make an entry with the court and notify the court-appointed attorney. Do you have any questions, sir?
Okay.
All right, you may be excused.
The next one's coming, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
How you doing, Your Honor? My name is Jamal Gant.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gant.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so Mr. Gant, you have been charged with several offenses. One offense is criminal trespass. That bond is $2,500. You have another offense of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. That bond amount is $2,500. You have an aggravated assault charge. That bond amount is $10,000. You have criminal damage in the 2nd degree. That bond amount is $2,500. You have an obstruction of an officer charge. That bond amount is $1,000. And you also have a battery charge. That bond amount is $6,000. So your total bond between all of these charges is $24,500. Do you understand these charges and the bond amount?
I don't understand how I have an aggravated assault, and then I have a battery as well.
I can read to you what is contained within the officer's warrantless arrest affidavit. So if you want me to read it aloud, I can go ahead and read it. Keep in mind, we are streaming live on YouTube. Did you want me to read the details of what was listed in the affidavit?
I mean, no, Your Honor. I just want to understand, like, do you feel like that is justified for me to have a aggravated assault and have a battery? And I ain't even have any type of weapon to have an aggravated assault.
One other thing I do want to inform you is just based on your criminal history, your battery charge, it was initially charged as a misdemeanor, but it is being upgraded to a felony, sir, based on your criminal history. So that is going to be a felony charge there. Are you requesting a court-appointed attorney, or do you plan to hire your own attorney?
Court-appointed.
I'm going to appoint an attorney to represent you. I'll grant that request. You will need to talk to your attorney if you have any further questions or concerns with regards to the charges that have been brought, and your attorney will be able to explain it further. You do have a special condition that's listed here on your bond, and that is to stay away and have no contact with Wilma Cherie Dixon, as well as Jasmine Sierra Grant. Do you understand that special condition to your bond, sir?
All right.
And your your preliminary hearing date is going to be scheduled for May 3rd because I have upgraded the battery charge as a felony. So you're being scheduled for May 3rd. If you do bond out, that court date will be waived and you'll receive a new court notice in the mail. But like I mentioned, your total bond amount is $24,500. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
No.
Okay, do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
I just got to get in touch with my job. The house has got my phone left, all my information at the house. So I don't have no way to get in contact with nobody.
Okay, so I have noted on here that you may be able to bond out. If you're not able to, like I mentioned, you'll be brought up on May 3rd for your preliminary hearing. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have a good day. You may be excused.
Come on up, Pope. He's at 11. Yeah, Paul. Okay. Tell her your name.
My name is Bryson Hope.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Hope. You have been charged with several offenses. You have a simple battery charge of $5,000. You have an obstruction of an officer charge. That bond is $2,500. You have a possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That bond is $1,500. You have a cruelty to children in the third degree. That bond is $2,500. You have a charge of interfering with the 911 call. That bond is $2,000. And you also have a false imprisonment charge. I am denying bond on that charge. So you will not be able to bond out, sir. I am showing that you have you're actively on probation. You have a 15-year probation sentence. And so I will be denying bond today. I am scheduling 2 court dates for you. The first one is going to be a preliminary hearing date. It's going to be scheduled for May 3rd. So you will be brought up on May 3rd to determine whether or not there is sufficient probable cause to continue to detain you. And I'm also scheduling you for a bond hearing date. That bond hearing date is going to be May 7th. And at that time, you'll be able to address the issue of bond and have that matter reconsidered. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
Yes, I was arrested and my rights wasn't read to me. Nobody read me their rights. How do they charge me with something that they didn't fully investigate? This was,
All right.
this was a domestic violence. This was a domestic violence case. My phone is a part of evidence of the situation. I did not falsely imprison anyone. This was a hotel room.
Well, Mr. Hope, hang on, Mr. Hope. I do see that you've applied to have a court-appointed attorney. And based on what you put in your application, I do find that you qualify for a court-appointed attorney. So I am going to appoint an attorney to represent you. And what you need to do is you need to talk to that lawyer about your concerns and whatever information you want to provide to that lawyer, so that way you can have a defense. But keep in mind, this is not the time to try your case, okay? So I have appointed that attorney to represent you. Do you have any other questions about the court-appointed attorney or or what I've mentioned about bond?
Yes, ma'am. Why are you invoking my bond, ma'am? I have a job. As you can see, I have a son. I'm on child support. All I was trying to do was provide. That was it. I'm a regular working person. I haven't been in any trouble or anything.
Mr. Hope, did you hear me when I mentioned that I'm scheduling a hearing date for May 7th, so that way you can address the issue of bond?
That's next month. That's a whole month, man. What do you mean?
Okay.
Okay, we ready? We done here?
We're done, Deputy. Thank you. All right, so it looks like we just have our inmate who needs an interpreter. Is that correct? Okay, so give me a few minutes. Let me get the interpreter on the line and I'll be back shortly. Thank you. Okay, Deputy, I'm ready for Mr. Ramos, if you want to bring him up.
Yes, Your Honor, he's a rep.
Okay. Okay, so Madam Interpreter, I want to go ahead and swear you in. Madam Interpreter, if you can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you would translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English in accordance with your training and experience?
I swear I do.
I'm sorry?
I swear, ma'am.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I do have Mr. Ramos present. So I'll go ahead and speak directly with him. Good afternoon, Mr. Ramos. I am Judge Farrey, and I will be presiding over your first appearance hearing today.
Buen día, señor Ramos. Yo soy la jueza el día de hoy. Yo voy a estar hablando con usted sobre su primera visita a la corte el día de hoy.
We are not here to try your case or take a plea.
No estamos aquí para hacer ningún tipo de aceptación de su caso ni negar su caso.
We are here so I can inform you about the charges that have been brought against you and to tell you how much your bond will be.
Solamente estamos aquí para informarle cuáles serán los cargos, cuáles son los cargos hacia usted y cuáles serán las opciones.
You have a right to remain silent and say nothing, but if you give up this right, anything you say may be used against you if this case goes to trial.
Tiene derecho a permanecer en silencio. En caso de que no permanezca en silencio, cualquier cosa que usted diga puede ser utilizada en su contra y también en la corte.
You have the right to have an attorney represent you as well.
También tiene derecho a un abogado que pueda representarlo.
I want to explain to you the 3 different types of bonds that you may utilize here today.
Queremos explicarle los 3 tipos diferentes de situaciones que podemos utilizar el día de hoy.
The first type of bond is called a cash bond, where you pay the full amount of your bond in cash to the sheriff's office.
La primera opción que tenemos se llama el cash bond. Esto significa que usted pagará la cantidad completa en la oficina del oficial.
At the end of your case, the cash bond will be returned to the person who posted it.
Y al finalizar su caso, la cantidad será regresada a la persona que lo tenía en el caso.
The second option is called a commercial bond, and you will have to post a bond through a commercial bonding company approved by the sheriff's office.
Ok, la segunda opción se llama un commercial bond. Esto significa que usted tendría que hacer esto por medio de un medio comercial aprobado por la oficina del oficial.
The commercial bonding companies will post the bond for you for a fee that is usually up to 15% of your bond amount.
Y usualmente estas compañías le ayudan con esto, pero pueden cobrar hasta el 15%.
Once you pay this fee to the bonding company, you do not get this money back.
Y cuando usted le paga esta cantidad a esa compañía, a usted no se le regresa el dinero.
Your third option is a property bond, where you will need to find someone who owns property that has at least 3 times the net equity in their property of the bond amount.
Y la última opción se llama el property bond. Esto significa que tiene que buscar a alguien que tenga una propiedad y que tenga 3 veces más del estimado neto que valga eso.
There may be special conditions to your bond that will require you to stay away from certain people, and you must adhere to that condition.
Pueden haber ciertas condiciones que no le permitan acercarse a cierto tipo de personas dependiendo qué opción usted elija. y debe mantenerse apegado a lo que se le va a indicar.
If a family member is a victim on the warrant and there is a special condition that you must have no contact with that family member, he or she will not be allowed to post the bond for you.
Si un familiar, ¿verdad?, ha sido la víctima, no va a estar en garantía y esa persona no va a poder ayudarle con una de estas opciones.
If you can please raise your right hand, Mr. Ramos.
Si puede levantar por favor su mano derecha.
Do you swear and affirm that the statements you give before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
¿Jura usted en este día que todo lo que usted diga en esta corte es cierto, nada más que la verdad y solamente la verdad?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down.
Ok, ya puede bajar su mano.
You have been charged with 1 count of battery, family violence, and your bond amount is $5,000.
Ok, usted ha sido acusado, tiene un cargo de $5,000 de finanzas por un problema familiar.
Do you understand the charge and the bond amount?
¿Entiende usted el cargo?
Yeah.
Do you believe you'll be able to make bond?
¿Cree usted que es posible que usted pueda pagar esto?
Sí. Yeah.
You do have a special condition to your bond. You are to stay away and have no contact with Rosie Ramos.
Ok, y su condición es que usted no puede acercarse y debe mantenerse lejos de Rosie Ramos.
Also, you are not to return to the location of 2570 Tabor Court, Morrow, Georgia.
Y también usted no puede regresar a esta ubicación, que es 2570 Tabor Court en Monroe, Georgia.
Do you understand those restrictions?
¿Entiende usted estas restricciones?
Yeah.
Okay, I will allow you to go back to the home escorted by a sheriff in order to retrieve your personal property.
Voy a dejarlo que regrese a la casa acompañado de un oficial de policía para que usted pueda recuperar sus pertenencias personales.
Okay.
And this must be done within 10 days of being released from jail.
Y esto debe ser en 10 días después de usted ser libre de cárcel.
Would you like to request a court-appointed attorney, or do you plan to hire your own attorney?
¿Le gustaría a usted tener un abogado que le pueda asignar la corte o le gustaría a usted conseguir su propio abogado?
Voy a conseguir mi propio abogado.
That will be my own attorney.
He said he'll have his own attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ramos, your preliminary hearing date is scheduled for May 4th.
Okay, su audiencia preliminar está, la cita sería mayo 4.
If you bond out, that court date will be canceled and you will receive a new court notice in the mail.
Ok, y en caso usted no puede cumplir con todos los requisitos, esto sería cancelado y usted va a recibir esa notificación por correo.
Okay.
And because you cannot return back to that residence, make sure that you contact the court to give them an updated address where you can receive court notices.
Y como usted no puede regresar a esa dirección, asegúrese de contactar a la corte para usted darle una nueva dirección y que ahí le puedan enviar todas las notificaciones de corte.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Ramos?
¿Tiene ¿Tiene alguna pregunta para mí, señor Ramos?
Sí, dice que va a estar 10 días aquí, empezando desde hoy.
Yes. Did you say that I'm going to be here 10 days starting today?
No, you have a bond of $5,000. So once you either pay this in cash or post the bond, you can be released.
Okay, usted tiene que pagar $5,000. Tiene la oportunidad de hacer esto. Si usted los paga en efectivo o hace un acuerdo, usted va a ser liberado.
But once you are released, you have 10 days to go back to the house to get your personal belongings.
Y una vez que usted sea liberado, tiene otros 10 días para que usted pueda ir a esa casa acompañado a traer sus pertenencias.
Okay.
But remember, you must be accompanied by a sheriff to go back there. You cannot go back there by yourself.
Pero recuerde que debe ir acompañado de un oficial. No puede ir solo de regreso a esa dirección.
Okay. You understand?
Yeah.
¿Ha entendido todo?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any more questions?
No.
¿Tiene alguna otra pregunta?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you. Have a good day, Mr. Ramos.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Que tenga buen día.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy. I appreciate you all. Have a good day.
You as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. I'm sorry, Court Interpreter. Thank you.